Party, look at me. Party, look at me. Woo! Looking like a quarter lick. Run up on me, you get.
Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're going to be taking a look at ATEEZ KQ Fellaz performance video number 2. This is a pre-debut performance that I know, and I'm also going through an entire marathon of ATEEZ at the moment for this month. My Patreon chose it for me, and I'm very excited to tackle this in order for me to kind of catch up and understand the group whenever they release a comeback, really knowing the scope of their background a little bit more, because I just recently did this with 17. I really wanted to tackle another group, and here we are. So we're just gonna go ahead and take a watch. I think they were the same thing as they did in the first performance.
Look at me. Party, look at me. Woo! Looking like a quarter lick. Run up on me, you get hit. And know my bitches with the from New York, it's a looking like a quarter lick. Since they wanna bend that, since they wanna bend that, got some hitters in my clip. Looking like a quarter lick.
Aww.
Looking like a quarter lick.
Hey.
Look at me. Looking like a quarter lick.
Nice. Okay, so I already seen the first performance, and this looks very similar. The location looks very similar to the first performance. They're wearing the same thing, so there's a good chance that they shot both of them in the same time frame, which honestly, it looks really cool. If you give me just 1 second, I'm actually curious about something. Okay, so I wanted to go check to see who choreographed this, because something that I noticed with pre-debuts, because I'm actively reacting to XG at the same time, and they have pre-debut performances, and they have, and it's other people's choreography. This is Melvin Timtim's choreo, and it really, it makes sense, because this type of track is one that I have heard this before. I have seen this to a certain extent before as well, or at least the fingerprints of it. I haven't learned it personally, but it does. I understand who the choreographer is now, so I understand it. I did say this in the last video that I reacted to of them, where I felt like we're not really seeing the group as an identity, like what kind of identity they have. And I would say there's 2 reasons for that. Firstly, they are coming across more as a dance crew, which speaks volumes to them being trainees, right? Because they're being idols, and a lot of times idols kind of get the short end of the stick on being regarded as dancers. They're performers, right? So I think this was a really great way to showcase, hey, we are competent in this skill set, and we can also, you know, bring other idol aspects to the table. So I wanted to kind of say that here, especially after seeing the first one. I'm very impressed at the fact that they are showcasing themselves as dancers, you know, but what comes along with that though, because they're not dancing to their own music, or we don't hear them being the ones singing, it's a bit trickier for us to kind of know, okay, who is ATEEZ? What is their identity? What do they want to be known for or known as? You know, so right now I feel like they want to be known as a group that is really heavy on dancing. And I think they're doing a fabulous job showcasing that. And I know that we get to see them be better. Like, I've heard that they are known as the performers of the industry for sure. And so I'm definitely looking forward to that. But going from the top here, this is a pre-debut ATEEZ we're looking at. So we do have, it is nice to see this kind of performance, like what we see here, that, you know, they come up, look at me, look at me, I love that energy. Part of me, I'm actually really vibing with the fact he's mouthing the words, look at me. Cardi, look at me. Like, it's just, he is in it. He is also in it. Good chance I've already pointed them out from the previous one. It is difficult because they're all wearing the exact same thing and they're all wearing a ball cap. I mean, some of them kind of have the more of the earrings in there too, like a chain earring, and maybe their chains are all slightly different. But I'll say the same note though is that, you know, because they're all wearing the same thing, it does look cleaner, but you run into the same things. If they want to showcase themselves as a group of individuals, this would, I would suggest them pursue other ways of integrating that, because they do a lot of unison choreo. That I will say. They also do a lot of, their movement is pretty similar to each other, which is probably a really good thing whenever you want to have cohesion as a group. So I feel like the things that are more preference based from what I'm saying are things that actually are working in their favor here for this pre-debut. And I know for me, I'm going to be able to see them as a group very, very soon, which is super fun. But the energy as they break this down, the swipe, that swipe, da-da-da, swipe and a swipe. It's nice, and then they have the bass drop. They're down to the side. Yeah, that one up on me. So I want you to notice with that part in particular, the bass was really nice. They hit it very well. As they were riding through that kind of glide push onto the side, notice how stiff their torsos are. That would be a suggestion with that, trying to have some sense of tension. Because with Melvin Tintin, because I've studied his work and I've studied his movement quality, a lot of how he like grinds out in a groove is it feels like you're squeezing a rag that has water in it. Very tense. You know, like he does ride up his shoulders a little bit in that, but how he intensifies it is very captivating, and he's one of the very few dancers that makes you have to look and really study how he's doing the content, because it's so difficult to replicate. So having a group like S Rank, that what Melvin incepted, was very notable and very well done, you know. So I think it was really nice to see this here, but that'd be my one note, to have some sort of like a legato tension that's taking place in the torso instead of it looking placed for that particular groove there. The switching the points, I would say with the step point, it did feel more of that kind of jazz posture with the points versus very placed versus more like, you know, having that, there's no griminess about this. It feels more placed. And that is a really tricky, Melva's pocket is really tricky to replicate. They're doing the choreo, like they're doing content well, but it does feel like it's a bit on the stiffer side, or there's not as much of, they're not in the pocket that Melvin pursues with a track like this. And also because they, you know, they go out and then they zoom in, it is hard to read some of the choreo. I like how they ride it back, bringing it through, tilting it through, bringing it down. That boom was nice. Great. I'd say those they're doing a pretty good job of really showcasing themselves here. I'll say my two guys right here. Throw it. Boom, boom, boom. They're right there. Boom. Yeah, so it's just all in all, choreo looks really nice. This is something I want to say note-wise to the camera guy. Do you notice in both of these videos how much space we have up here and how much gets cut off down here? So that'd be my one note. They should have figured out that gimbal, because that gimbal is centered more up versus centered onto them, or it could be a height thing, like how they're holding it, because right now it is really hard to catch their full body. It really feels like we're cutting off like a quarter of the shot. And that's just an overall camera note from both videos. So I think it's just something happened to the camera when they shot this, because it's not, you're not able to see everything as cohesive, and it's not centered. I like that with that reverb, that with the vibration, and then they drop it down to the side, which was really nice. Yeah, da-da-da, quarter, la-da, lick, and they drop it down to the side. So all in all, choreo looks really nice. They added some basic dynamics to it, like let's say like here, some people, just the transitions, but it's mostly just one big combo. And that would be another note as to if you want to show more identity and personality within the group outside of just performance and unison, it would be having more layers, add on, having breakout, everybody gets to have their moment, which is something they did show more of in the first performance. Here, it really just looks like a concept shoot for a combo, a really long combo, and we kind of just switch formations here and there. And I think that's what also tailors into not really quite having an identity yet. But we also know that they are trainees here, so they technically don't have an identity. They are trainees of an entertainment agency, so they're just showing competency of the craft. They're not really identifying as any group at this point in time. We know now this is ATEEZ, but at this time I knew that wasn't the case. So dipping it down, this is a big note I do want to share. Notice how they're sitting in their hips here. A lot, they are turning the knees out, which is nice, but notice how whenever they're here on the side, they're not really doing a lot of using the hips. They're kind of down and leaning to the side. There's not quite, what's the word for it? Whenever they're leaning over, it's definitely, I think I kind of already said it. It's definitely on the stiffer side. And a lot of it stems from whenever they're placing their body over, there's no depth to the transition. That's what it is. There's no depth between in the range of each movement and texture they're trying to do. It feels like they're hitting a dynamic, but there's texture not infiltrating in their bodies, which is contributing to not having the right posture or pocket that Melvin would normally have on a track like this, and the choreography like this as well. Also notice how isolated that leg was. I know that was probably the choreography, but it did feel a bit stagnant. It just felt like, okay, here's a leg here, we're contributing to a particular sound, and we really want you to be captivated by that, which is why we have the absence of movement everywhere else. There is a slight difference between those two things. Now this is nice. I see we're kind of entertaining more of a crump openness, but it's not really a crump pocket. Dipping it down. I will say what's interesting is we have one of them, we see his face, and everybody else's faces were significantly dimmed, which I thought was a really cool moment. They're kind of subtly showcasing him there. Love the energy, the brrr, and they go here, boom, they throw it, da-da-da. You know, I really like their walks, which is really nice. I do want to take note of one thing here. My dancer right here, notice that he uses his shoulders and his hips. His hips work in opposition to his shoulders. So I'm going to backtrack it, because the little things like that make a difference in the overall aesthetic of your transition. Because if you look here, just following him, now I gotta a little bit more. So watch, yeah, in comparison to this dancer here. So actually, if you watch these two, he's using his shoulders and his hips. He is not. He's just using his head. They look subtly different. He looks way more comfortable. So I'm gonna play it one more time, and I want you to look at that as well. Just these two right here. Yeah. It's subtle, but effective. Now, I'm not saying he's completely absent of it, but it's such subtlety in comparison to that look at me. Like, it's like a look at me, you know? It needs to have a sense of extroverted within the pocket that you're trying to do. So, I mean, what I'm saying, it still stands. I'm going to be honest. It still feels like it's just a group doing choreography. It doesn't feel like ATEEZ. It doesn't feel like they feel like a dance group. Great. I think that's what they wanted to get across, but this doesn't read to me, ooh, I see that they have personality, you know, as individuals, or it doesn't implore me to want to learn more. It's just say, okay, this is just choreography. Okay, cool, great. And then I move on, you know, and most of the time, whenever you deal with people who are idols, who are going to be idols, something that you want to heed from is whenever you have a K-pop group, they want to be able to captivate you and want you to implore and dig deeper, you know, either based on how they perform. They want to make you curious about, okay, I want to learn more about these guys in particular. I noticed that, oh, this one has really great form and personality. Ooh, they're all just oozing in swag. I'm so curious about their choreographer. You know, for me, it feels like we're teetering in between those two realms, but that is simply because this choreography is not theirs. They are trying to come across as a dance group. They don't have an identity as a group yet, unlike XG, where XG, they are showcasing themselves as a group. Here they are, but they're like, this features, they're like KQ Fellaz. This showcases KQ trainees. They don't say this is ATEEZ pre-debut, you know, like, so how they're promoting it is different too. So which is why I think there's different expectations here. In no way am I saying that this is subpar, this is bad. No, quite the contrary. I think this is very good in the fact that I can look at it as a dance concept. And the fact is, I haven't thought here, I'm like, oh, this is a K-pop group doing dance. Like, it's not that at all, which shows how well they're doing it. They're doing a great job. There's just some overall symptoms I'm showing of some stiffness within the type of pocket they're trying to do. The posture transitions, we're not really seeing those. It really does feel like they're using their extremities as they're hitting a lot of these moves, and not everybody's on the same page on how they're using their torso. Just like most groups when at the beginning of their journey. Also, there was a slight timing issue right back here from one of our dancers. And whenever you dance in a group, that's stuff that you just notice. His was just more, his had a little bit more lag time, so his range was off compared to everybody else. And I love that da-da-da-da-da-da look. You know, I'd say some of them really have that essence of performance, but not everybody does. A lot of people, it just feels placed. And then you have some of them who are like, That's, for this type of track, it needs to have that filthy, it's Cardi B, right? You gotta have that filthy, it's gotta make, this doesn't make me feel, Melvin Tim's choreo makes me feel, when Melvin Tim does it. Here, it just feels like choreo. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying and the way that I'm saying it. You know, the choreo looks cool. The bounces, they look cool. They look suave. But they don't look, you know, they don't look like that's their choreo. You know? But, I mean, anyway, like, I genuinely enjoyed it. I really do. And it makes me very excited to see where I go as soon as they debut until seeing their most recent stuff. There's a good chance I'm going to see their comeback before I even see like their very first debut, and I'm very excited to see the difference already between this and Crazy Form. I think is what is out right now, but the dance practice at the time of this video being recorded, the dance practice is not out yet. So I am so thrilled to see what is about to go down with that one, and then looking back to here, really seeing the difference. I'm definitely excited for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I was helpful in some way. Whenever I take a look at pre-debuts with any group, it does feel a little different than if I'm just looking at a debut of a K-pop group. So do forgive me if I do come across in a way of like, something's off about this. Remember, I don't know who these guys are, and part of the joy of being able to explore a group is naturally getting to learn their quirks, their fingerprints, their movement quality along the way. And so I do ask for grace if you are a really big fan of ATEEZ. No, in no way am I dogging on them. This is quite the opposite. I know the caliber of what they've brought to the table. I've seen excerpts of some of their work. I've seen San's performance clip before I even watched these, so I understand their caliber of movement now. I'm just really excited to see where they start to where they end up, you know. So, and I'm excited that you guys are on the journey with me. If you want to see more ATEEZ, XG17, K-pop, regular dance content, things of the like, I have that on YouTube, as well as so much more on Patreon. Just like what I'm doing with my ATEEZ marathon, I have already done at this point in time with 17. So I have about, at this point, 65 unreleased 17 reactions that are exclusive to Patreon until 17 has more comebacks, and then they'll naturally show up on YouTube. But if you are impatient like I am, you can go hang out over there and check it all out. I am Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.